Mhm.
Thank you. All right, so welcome to our second week of Tech-versations. Thank you for everyone's patience as I figure all this out. I'm just getting, my heart is feeling so full. My bucket is so full, knowing that these are helpful to you all. So thank you for engaging. As always, this is an informal conversation. That's why it's called a Tech-versation. This will not be a presentation. I'm not here to teach you a specific thing. We're going to chat about Google Slides today. So before we get into it, if you could drop in the chat box for me, please. As always, what is your current comfort level with Google Slides? 0 being I've never used it before. 5 being I could teach a professional learning session on Google Slides. And then if you have any specific questions that you wanted to ask today, you're like, I really hope Nova talks about this. Put that in the chat box too so that I make sure I get to it. I'll take a minute to do that.
Nova, I'm not sure how I send this to you. I type something, but I've never done the chat deal before.
Yep, just hit enter or return on your keyboard.
Oh, thank you.
There you go, you got it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Perfect. Cool. All right. Sounds like we've got some really great questions here. So I love these questions about how is it different from the Microsoft suite, questions about making them interactive, embedding a YouTube video is a really great question. So let's get right into it. I will just begin by explaining a number of years ago, Google created their competitor to the Microsoft suite. And so they made a competitor to Microsoft Word, which was Google Docs. And I have this here somewhere. Let's see if I can pull this up really quickly. I had a really great image, if I can pull it up fast enough. So Word is Google Docs. Microsoft Excel is Google Sheets. Microsoft PowerPoint is Google Slides. There's one that I'm missing. Somebody's going to help me correct me which one I'm missing. And then Google also has Forms, which Microsoft doesn't have an equivalent. And I had a really great little image here, but I don't see it. It was probably a different. Okay, let me see if I can just find this really great image for you all really quickly, because I think that that'll just give a nice little overview of what they all are and what they do and how they're all connected. Here we go. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. So slides is the equivalent to PowerPoint, creating a PowerPoint presentation. And Google would refer to making a slide deck. Here we go. So I'll give you a moment to look at that image. So who can name one huge difference between PowerPoint and Google Slides?
Is it the interactive ability?
Totally. Yeah. With PowerPoint, you create one PowerPoint and you've got it and it's static and then that's it. So Google, that's a great question, Heidi. Google doesn't have an equivalent for Publisher because they're able to do all of the things that Publisher does in the other suite products. So they don't need an additional piece to do what Publisher does. Personally, when I'm doing a Publisher type document, I actually use slides, and I'll show you some ways to do that.
I was just mentioning it because if anybody is really familiar with Publisher, which I was, or I am, that was kind of my go-to thing. I got stuck a bit when I first had to start learning slides because there are limitations to Publisher that Slides doesn't have, and I didn't realize that. So I kind of kept myself in a box, so to speak, for a while, not understanding that there was a much broader a lot of things that you could do with Slides that Publisher doesn't allow. So it was a real brain changer.
Totally. Yeah. And a lot of people also default to thinking that you would use Docs for that, and actually Slides is a better product for creating visually stimulating, graphically stimulating content. So I'm just going to start with a new tab here so I can share with you how I would go about getting to, sorry, my cat's hissing at my daughter. It's really distracting. So here in your Google Apps, you can access your Drive. You can also go directly to the Slides suite right here. There's so many things happening in my house right now. I'm going to tell my daughter to get out of my rooms. All right, my daughter came in, the cat followed her, the dog followed her, they're all yelling at each other. So I actually don't recommend going to Slides, which is a little counterintuitive. And if you've heard me say it once, you've heard me say it a million times, Google will always give you multiple ways to get to the same thing. So while you could click Slides and go here, I would just go directly to your Google Drive. And you can do that by clicking the little tic-tac-toe or the waffle on the top of your Chrome browser. Again, Google loves Google. So Google Drive, Google Slides, they're gonna work better if you're using your Google Chrome browser, which is all I use. I don't use any other browser. In fact, I just uninstall them from my computer because they drive me crazy. You could always in the search bar click drive.google.com. Usually when you click a couple of letters, it automatically populates. And so here we go, we can go straight to Google Drive. So you're gonna see my work Google Drive. Please forgive me for the mess that you're about to see. As I mentioned last week, when I'm looking for a document or anything in my Drive, I typically just search for it in the search bar. So it's a mess up here. If you want to create a new slide document, you would click new, and then you would just click on slides. And there's a little caret, a sideways facing caret here that'll ask you if you want to create from a blank presentation or from a template. I don't ever click on that. I always just click right here at Google Slides. It takes you into a new document. And please know when I say document, I know that that's confusing for some people because this is not a doc, it's a slide deck. And so I could say it'll take you into a new deck. I use doc, you know, very, very generously to mean all documents. Okay. So this is the very general overview. From here, it'll automatically format for you if you would like to use a theme, so you can make it really beautiful on your own. If you click out of that and then you're like, oh no, but I wanted to make it pretty again, it's always down here, the little explore button. You can always click. This will also auto format based on whatever the contents are of your slide. So if you insert an image and you have a little bit of text, these little options on the corner will change. In your presentation, you have all the same types of things that you would have in PowerPoint. You've got your file, edit, view, menus. That's all the same. For those of you that are familiar with slides, please bear with me as I get through a very, very basic background, and then I'll get into some more fun content. A couple of pieces here that people aren't always familiar with. You can make a copy from directly inside your slide deck. And when you copy selected slides, you can also copy your selected slides directly from here by clicking Command or Control C on your keyboard. And when you paste them into a new slide deck, they will actually link to this slide deck so that when you make changes on one, it also changes on another. That's really great, especially for like middle and high school teachers that have multiple class periods, so that if you're teaching in one class period, it'll change that slide for all of your other periods as well, which is really nice. You can always download as a PDF if you need to access those, if you want to share with your students in a way where they can't edit or interact, just so that you know that that's available. And as Heidi was mentioning, for those of you that are using this for like creating a flyer for your book club, I saw somebody's name is book club. So if you're creating a flyer for your book club, download this as a PDF is one great way to make sure that everything stays where it's supposed to be. If you're going to be going off camping, make it available offline so you don't have to worry about being connected to the internet. A lot of people aren't aware. People will say, I can't use Google Drive because I don't always have the internet. You don't have to have the internet. You can make it available offline and work on it anytime. When you connect back to the internet, it'll sync right up and it'll just keep on going. Okay, so I'm going to move into, let's insert some content. Right? So I could, and please, please, please interrupt me and ask questions as we go. So interrupt me anytime. All right, so that's interesting. There we go. When you want to add a new slide, a lot of people think that they just click the little plus button over here. There is a caret. Anytime you see a caret, it means that there's a menu attached to it. So when you click the menu, you have all these choices for different types of slides. Now, if I decided to go with one of these templates, let's go with the fun pink one, even though I'm not really a pink kind of girl. And now if I go with, let's say, one of these as my next slide, it'll start looking at what goes with that, and I can find the template that matches. So just wanted to say that that is an option there. So it automatically makes it really pretty for you. So I'm going to get right to one of the questions about embedding a YouTube video. We can insert all sorts of different types of text or content. Images we can search from the web. So I can look for book club. I'm on the book club thing now. Let's see. All right. Oh, this is a fun one. Let's go with that one. When I click it once, it just selects so that I can insert multiple simultaneously. If I wanted to just select one from the get-go, didn't mean to do that. I'm just going to show you how I would do that directly. I would just double click. It'll insert it, no big deal. Okay. You can also insert directly from your Google Drive, et cetera, from your camera. So I could take a screenshot of myself or do a selfie. I know a lot of teachers will have their students do that at the beginning of the school year when they do like an About Me slide deck. So Jennifer, your question about how to make this interactive or engaging, one way is right off the bat, have your students take a selfie of themselves and put it in their About Me slide deck. And so it starts off with a picture of themselves. Okay. So if I'm inserting video, I can search YouTube right here. So maybe I'm going to search for Mathy Mama and see if anything comes up. Look at that. There I am. Woohoo! What do you know? So let's go ahead and stick that right in there. And there's a couple of different ways that you can format this video. Is it going to start playing? I don't need to hear myself talk. Thank you very much. I highly recommend in your format options clicking autoplay when presenting. What that means is that when you go into present mode, when you hit that slide, it'll just start playing without you having to tell it to play.
Thanks for joining mappingmama.com.
Ugh, yeah. Go away.
Can you repeat
All right.
what that's called again?
Yeah, in your format options, it says autoplay when presenting, right down here.
Thank you.
Of course. So there is also mute audio. People will do that sometimes if you're using it as essentially like a GIF. So if you want to show a video of maybe it's a cartoon of some sort, or maybe it's the life cycle of a butterfly, maybe it's a really cool National Geographic like whales excerpt or clip, but you want to be the one talking, you would click mute audio so it can autoplay when you get to that slide, but it allows you to be the one doing the talking. Any other questions about that? Note that here you can also edit, so you can say you actually want the slide to start playing at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And so then it'll automatically start playing the video at that point. And so that's also a really great way to use this when you're teaching, because you can set it for exactly the clip that you want. So it can start even from 3 minutes and 30 seconds and go to 3 minutes and 38 seconds. And it will only play that 8 seconds and then it'll move on.
No, but the autoplay when presenting, does that just mean when you get to that slide, it's going to automatically start playing, right?
Yep, I'll show you that really quickly on the screen. So I'm here on the title slide right now, selected. I'm going to click present. So I'm now in present mode. I'm going to go ahead and click to the next slide, and then I'm just going to put my hands away. And it'll automatically start playing right there.
Gather up a bunch of rocks in the backyard and
it'll
put them in order
stop at
by
8
size
seconds.
or by weight.
So because I told it to only play that 8 seconds, that's
Right.
all it played.
Perfect.
Yep. If I ever do this again, I'm not using a video of myself. That's so painful. All right.
Hey, Nova, can I ask a question?
Please do.
When you say that you're putting it into present mode, I mean, in my brain, the only thing I can think of is if I'm, doing if I'm doing a workshop with a bunch of people and we're going to go through slides and it would be in present mode. I use Google Slides almost exclusively during distance learning because I made slide decks for my students, but I never used present mode.
Sure.
Is that something that would actually work if giving your students, or it's only for it would play, right?
It would just, yeah, I mean, the difference is if you're not in present mode, you just hit the play button. So it's 6 or half a dozen, one or the other, as far as I'm concerned.
So present mode would be more along the lines of you're actually presenting the material versus the students going through it themselves. You wouldn't use present mode.
No, I mean, no, probably not.
Okay.
Yep. Again, it all comes down to purpose and intent. So if let's say I've designed my structure so that I'm doing a 10 or 15 minute, I'm just going to make this up, right? I'm teaching 2nd grade. I'm doing a unit on dinosaurs, and I'm focusing on a 10 to 15 minute mini lesson. So let's say I've done 10 minutes of community building already on my Zoom call, and then I'm going to do a 10 or 15 minute mini lesson in Zoom, and I'm going to just present to them. And I'm going to make it really interactive in that 10 to 15 minutes by just having the students like interrupt in chat or respond or call on student number 8 or drop a comment in the chat. And during that time, I have it in present mode. And then they're going to get off of Zoom, and right then and there, they're going to go in and they're going to do their own slide deck for 30 minutes. And then I'm going to have them come back to Zoom for just 10 or 15 minutes to close out the lesson. So just some really flexible ways that we can structure our lessons to use the many different layers of engagement that work for students. Does that make sense? All right. So we can also insert shapes. What a lot of folks don't know about shapes is that you can use these as text boxes as well. So if I make this over here, I can now just double click and insert text right then and there. So I don't need to put a text box on top of my shape unless I want to do something specific with my shape. So I see that a lot where people are like fiddling with the shape and then fiddling with the text box. So just be aware you can just insert the text directly into your shape. You can also right click and you can click edit text, and that's right there, and you can go ahead and edit the text.
Where was the shapes?
So the shapes, yeah, I'll show you one more time. So shapes, I got there. Go away, there we go. So shapes is just right here.
Ah, got it.
It's also an insert shape.
Okay, got it, got it, got it.
I have a lot of fun with the arrows. You can do some really cool things with the arrows. And then double click and go this way. I'm now going to change the color of my arrow.
So is that automatically an interactive text box that the children can write in?
So when the students come in, they can. Yep.
Okay.
And I'll just go ahead and share this with you right now so you guys can pop in. I'm going to drop this in the chat for you. So you can come join me in this slide deck and play with it. The students would totally be able to edit this, but we have to be really thoughtful and aware of what we're giving students
Okay.
when all of them are going to join and they're all going to be trying to edit the same thing at the same time versus when I
Our own
want
copy.
each student to have their own copy. Exactly.
Got it, got it, got it, got it. Which you can add in Google Classroom.
You got it. Exactly.
Got-
And so
okay.
you just have to think about those design elements ahead of
Yep.
time. Just
Okay.
like if I were in the classroom and I was thinking through, okay, well, I want the students to do this activity. They're going to need pencils. They're going to need a paper. They're going to need to be at their desks, right? We think through those things because it's just second nature for us. So now in technology, the things we're thinking of are, do they need their own copy? Are they sharing a copy? Right? All those questions.
Got it.
Nova,
Yeah.
I might have, I mean, because I'm definitely more, less advanced than everybody else. I thought you needed a text box to insert any kind of writing.
Nope,
But
you don't.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool about the shapes is that you can insert text automatically into any of the shapes, even your equation shapes. Look at these, look at this. Oh.
So when we're giving the students a Google slide, we don't have to create a text box for them to put an answer or anything like that?
We will look at that in just a moment. So part about that question, and we'll look at some examples of what that might look like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So moving on to, I'm just going to create, so feel free to play with shapes on that slide. I'm going to create a new slide. I'm going to go ahead and click explore because I would like this slide to look different than that last one. So there we go. I chose this one. I'm going to go back to my insert menu. And again, with tables, tables work really well in slide decks. And tables are a really great way to get all of your students to respond on the same slide. So let's say I have 20 students. Everyone feel free to laugh at that. We're just going to pretend like we only have 20 students. It's so lovely. So I'm going to create a little table here. And I'm going to format the size of it. It automatically changes so that they're all the same, so that they're distributed. The columns are distributed. And I'm also going to change the background color to white so that I can have a dark background and I can have that table really pop on top of the dark background, which makes it really visually appealing for the students. It makes them you know, it's the little things, those little design elements that make students, that make their eye drawn to that element so that it's easier for them to engage with. All right, I'm just going to distribute the rows here. And now I could tell the children, for those of you that are in the slide deck, you can feel free to come to slide 4, and I could say, all right, children, find a slide, and, oh, here, let me give you 4 plus 7 equals. You know, I would never just give them an equation, right? Like that would never happen. Okay, so I've got my equation here, and I could even ask the students to find their own box and write a word problem to match this number sentence. So there's a lot of really wonderful things you can do with tables. As far as student engagement, again, it's a really great way to give them each their own place to respond. Oh, look at this. We've got a brave volunteer who's going to write a word problem. Love it. All right, let's see. I'm going to make this next slide while you're working on that. I'm going to see if I can make this next slide pretty. Oh, they don't have my pink anymore. Which one am I going to go with? Let's go with this one. All right, so I'm going to insert. Is there anything else to insert? A chart. Oh my goodness. So you've given some, you've done some sort of assessment with your students, especially your 5th and 6th graders, and you have some data you want to share with them, and you want to represent it in a chart to show them how they did on their last assessment. You can pull directly from sheets and it'll plop the chart directly in here. Also really helpful if you're trying to convince your admin to purchase a certain program and you want to show the data. There you go. We're multi-use here. The diagrams I encourage you to play with as well. There's a lot of really wonderful diagrams that help students to understand where they're going with their learning. And so I always recommend at the beginning of a unit or a set of instruction to show children what the trajectory is. I once did a pilot project on motivating boys around writing. And one of the #1 ways that we found that boys would get more motivated to complete their writing assignments was if they understood what the final product was going to be. They needed to know what the end was going to be in order to get motivated about right now. So there's some really beautiful diagrams in here that you can play with. And the great thing is if you play with a diagram and you mess it all up, you can always go over here to File, and Jan, I feel like you would love this feature. So you can always go to File, Version History, and you can see the version history. Once I click on that button, again, I can click on the little caret, and it tells me all of the edits that I've made. In fact, this just happened to me last night. I was editing a document and then realized I didn't create a new document. I was editing the original document, and I didn't mean to do that. So I made a copy, and in that original document, I went all the way back to the version from last year. It was, I was able to revert back, restore that old version, start fresh all the way back from the beginning. Okay, I'm not actually going to do that right now. So it's just nice to know that in the Google Suite products, there's no such thing as making a mistake. You just always go back and go to an earlier version and keep going. And then also nice to know that you can just scribble directly on the screen, especially if you have a touch screen like I do. So especially if you know that students have touch screens, wouldn't it be great if they all had touchscreen Chromebooks? That'd be lovely. Mm-hmm. So you can always have them, you know, let's see, you can even here, oh, let's see, let's do this. So there's 11 and 72 and 64 and 3. And so you could even have students use the scribble tool to circle which one they think is the correct one. Again, if you're using Zoom, you guys could annotate right now. So if any of you remember where your annotate tool is from last week, you can go ahead and annotate right now and circle which one do you think is the right answer. Okay, all right. Oh, and I need to turn on show names. There we go. All right, Michael Bruce crossed off 3. Said, nope, not that one.
Where's annotate?
Yeah, can somebody tell where annotate is, please?
Under view options at the top.
Thank you.
And Jennifer, when I'm presenting, I have a little button that says more at the top, and it allows me to show the names of annotators. It also allows me to disable you from annotating. But why would I do that?
If somebody's saying something they shouldn't, maybe?
Perhaps. I think for me, it's just a conversation with the student and the family in that case of just appropriateness. They're going to need to learn how to be appropriate. And so rather than just blocking them, I would rather have the conversation and teach them to be appropriate.
Got it.
I mean, unless, like I mentioned last week, you're like one of my friends who had a student playing adult videos in the background. In that case, that's, you know, we take that more seriously. Okay. I'm just going to, are there any questions so far? Okay. I like the check mark. That's good. My favorite's the little heart, though. Yeah, Heidi, that's exactly. I love the little heart. Some of you noticed that I have my Pear Deck menu at the top of the screen here. I hope that those of you that were interested in Pear Deck were able to catch my little 15-minute recap. And if you do have more questions about Pear Deck, please just reach out and let me know. I do also want to point out that there are add-ons in Google Slides, and I, every once in a while, you know, when I'm bored and have extra time, that never happens. If you just go to get add-ons, you can kind of just like look around and play around, and I'm just going to clear all drawings real quick and close that. And so there's all these amazing add-ons that you can add on to slides. There's equation editors. There are live polls with Q&A. There are flashcards, which I don't know why you would need that. Google Translate, so it automatically instantly translates all of your slides for you. Inserticons, I know one of my kindergarten teachers has been using this one, Magic Rainbow Unicorns, which just turns all of your text into rainbow. How amazing is that? Why would everyone needs that? Like, just everyone needs that. Unfortunately, as you see, our admin at Sac City are able to whitelist what add-ons we add to our Chrome browser. So if you wanted that, you would need to use your personal Gmail account to use Magic Rainbow Unicorns. But I've heard that there's one other one that does the same thing that is whitelisted. So there's tons of add-ons here that I highly recommend you play with. There's GIF makers. You can even have students play around with making GIFs. I've seen teachers do really creative things with TikTok and GIFs where it's all totally instructional and academically embedded. Really cool. Okay. So I'm just going to show you one more time how I got there. It says add-ons at the top and then get add-ons. So I'm going to switch gears at this point. If you have any other questions about the basic features that you saw here, please ask now. And I'm going to also figure out if there's anything else that I missed.
Nova, I've got a question.
Yeah.
One of my biggest problems when I use my slide decks for my students, you mentioned that everything can be undone.
Yeah.
Except my students didn't always know that, and they would do wonderful things like delete slides, which there's only really one way to, well, not true. You can delete things in multiple ways, but you have to actually select delete to do them. And I don't know why a student would do that. And I know that they could have undone it, but a lot of times they don't. Is there any way in slides to keep things from being deleted once I've finished it and I want to make copies for this. The students are going to get their own copy to work in.
Yep.
Is there any way to lock it?
Yeah, no, there's no way to lock, which drives me crazy. I wish that there were. I used to use locking a lot in spreadsheet in Excel, and I love the ability to password protect certain cells or lock things into place. And unfortunately, there's not. I've actually been recently playing in Heidi. When I do my Miro Tech-versation, I highly recommend you come join because I feel like Miro is a program you would really enjoy. In Miro, you can lock things in place so that, yes, they could potentially unlock them and move them, but they can't do it accidentally. And what I mean by that is I can't tell you how many times, you guys, I'm like, oh, I don't want this arrow anymore. And I go to delete it, and I don't realize that I've accidentally clicked the slide, and I accidentally delete the slide because I hit the delete button on my keyboard. And if a student does that accidentally and doesn't even realize it, then they don't know to undo that action, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, you already know about version history, but just for everyone else on the call, please note if your students are doing things like messing with each other or deleting slides, you just go to see version history, and you can undo the students' mischievousness. I just made up that word. Mischievosity. You can also, if you are having issues with some students and they are doing some editing that you don't want them to do, you could also name your current version so that you know, like, this is a good version. And then if you ever need to come back, you know which one to come back to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, I know right now it's okay, so I'm going to name it. That way I know, because otherwise when you, again, I'm going to take us back for just a second. When you get into version history, especially if you've got, okay, let's go with 20 students. We're going to be optimistic here. Let's say you've got 20 students working on this at the same time. You can imagine this history list is going to be enormous, right? So sometimes having a named version, you can click only show named versions. It'll just populate like, this is the good one. Okay. So just really quick want to show, and then I'm going to switch gears. You can star, those of you that were with me last week and I talked about starring your items so that you can easily find them. You can do that right here. It only stars it for yourself, not for your students. You can also move things from here. So right now this is in my drive, but I actually wanted to put this in, let's see, I think I have sample forms. Let's put it in there. So I'm going to click the little caret to move that into sample forms. I'm going to move here. And it tells me this is a cool slide deck, has been moved from my drive to sample forms. And if I click on this, it'll take me to that folder so that I can see it in there and I know where it is. Okay.
Nova, I've lost your screen.
Okay. Are you on a Mac or a PC?
I'm on a Mac.
Try hitting Command Tab.
Okay. Oh, and then go to Zoom. Oh, there we go. Got it.
Did that work?
Yep. Thank God.
My favorite trick. For those of you on a PC, it's Alt Tab. Feel free to try it now. Command Tab on a Mac, Alt Tab on a PC. If you don't know that trick, it's going to become your new favorite trick. Okay. This little button will tell me if it's available for offline use. So if you're going to go camping, you want to bring your computer with you, I don't recommend that. Don't do that. But if you want to, this is where you could also turn on that offline editing so that you don't have to have the internet in order to access the document. And if you were going to do that, I would say leave it up on your computer so you don't have to open it. Just turn on offline editing, leave it on your computer, on your laptop, shut your laptop and take it with you.
Nova, would that work for students if they were working on a deck and they were no longer in a place where they had internet access?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So for our students that don't have access to reliable internet, teaching them about offline editing is a really great tool for them. And they can just turn that on as well. And it'll be there for them. Yep. All right. So we're going to get into this. For those, some of you already saw this last week very quickly. I'm just going to show you a couple of the amazing features of a hyperdoc in Google Slides. And I also just want to acknowledge doing Google Slides in 1 hour, like there's no way to do a full training on slides. And so I'm just really like pointing out some ways to increase engagement and ways that you can use Google Slides to set up an entire lesson or a unit of study. If I were back in the classroom tomorrow, Google Slides would 100% be a way that I structure my lessons. I could do an entire math unit in Google Slides and I just go to the certain slides each day. And you can even share individual slides with students by simply copying the slide, by right-clicking copy, and then pasting it into a new slide deck. And then that way, if you edit your slide, it edits their slide as well. And then you could share that in Google Classroom and they each get their own individual copy. So lots of different ways that you can play with and manipulate. So this is an example of a hyperdoc. For those of you, let me just see a raise of hands. How many of you have no idea what I mean when I say hyperdoc? Be brave. I love you guys. You're the best. Okay, so a hyperdoc comes from the idea that I'm creating a hyperlink in a document. And so a lot of people think that a hyperdoc has to be in a Google Doc, but it's not. It just is a way of saying it's some thing that you're sharing with students or anyone that has lots of hyperlinks in it. And the hyperlinks are designed to take people through a sequence of learning. So this hyperdoc is in Google Slides. And when we get to our Google Docs day, is that tomorrow? Is tomorrow Docs? Okay. Thanks for keeping me on my toes, folks. You'll be seeing a hyperdoc that's in Docs. And when we get to Sheets, you're going to see a hyperdoc that's in Sheets. Make sense? So this hyperdoc is incredible. I shared it with folks last week. I'm going to share it again in just a moment, but I'm going to take you through it really quickly. This is on the island of the blue dolphins. It's a novel study. What I was going to show you is, if I look really quickly in grid view, it shows me all of the slides in a grid view. And we can quickly and easily see all of the vocabulary slides are green. The chapter slides always have these birds in the back. And then there's these kind of turquoise slides. And then the blue slides are the main content slides. And what's incredible about this one, this person has taken their time. This slide deck is 135 slides long. That's incredible. I don't think I've ever made a slide deck that's 135 slides long. But what's beautiful about the way that they've structured it is that, oh, I didn't mean to, I don't want to go to master. I will talk about master in just a minute. They've structured it so that in the table of contents, every single chapter is hyperlinked to that page or that slide. So if I click on chapter 4, they've hyperlinked it to slide 22. It takes me right to chapter 4. I can click the home button on my keyboard and it takes me straight back up to the top. So that's what I just did there. So I'm going to click table of contents. Let's say chapter 21. It's on slide 95. And here is my learning for chapter 21. You could also link these to a video, or you could have them click on these and take them to some additional content around vocabulary. Here, the student would type directly in here their responses. Learn more. So there's videos directly linked here. So the student can watch a video to find out more information. They have a writing prompt and then the next chapter. And again, I'm not going to use my mouse. I'm going to use my keyboard to click home, and it takes me all the way back up to the top. If you are a person who is maybe not as tech savvy or who gets nervous about the technology, if you're a person who feels like, I don't know how I'm going to teach this to my students because I don't understand it very well, I totally understand. I've been there too. My number one recommendation is that instead of thinking that you have to teach it to your students, explore it with your students and have them share what they're learning and exploring with you. They're often going to find, and if any of you have done SMI with us, the Summer Math Institute, the first time we introduce technology, we just ask students to get into a certain platform, and then we say, what do you notice? What have you learned? What did you discover? And they always figure out all of the technology we want them to learn. We don't ever have to teach it to them. Like my first grade son is like building worlds in Minecraft. I don't need to teach him how to do this. Okay, I'm going to share this with you and let you play with this a little bit for those of you who didn't get it last week, and I want to hear some of your questions. What is the coolest thing you've seen so far? Or what is something new you've seen? I love seeing you all pop in here. I see 3 of you in here. Cool, thank you, Michael. Yeah, shapes acting as a text box. And again, in math, that's really handy because they have all those equation shapes. And so you can play around with that. It's a really fun, a fun way to play with the shapes. I'm gonna stop sharing for just a moment. I have one other thing I'd love to share with you before we go, but I want you to play with that for just a minute. So I'm gonna give you a moment.
No, but how do I get you back? I can't. I know you told us once. Sorry.
That's
I
okay.
can't see you anymore.
Are you on a Mac?
No, I'm on my school computer.
Is it a Mac or a PC?
It's a PC.
Alt Tab on your keyboard.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate that.
Did that work?
Yes, it's
That's
great.
That's a
Thank you.
cool tip, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. Any questions that are coming up as you're looking through? That hyperdoc, everyone? I'm waiting to see if any questions come up.
Nova,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a question, but I was distracted by a phone call from Rayleigh's. So I'm not
That's
sure if I'm
important.
listening, but did you mention how to make backgrounds?
No, I haven't, but let's talk about that really quickly. So,
I love that. That was like such a lifesaver to be able to,
yeah,
I mean, and that's what that whole slide presentation is. Those are locked backgrounds
that's
that can be reused, and they're really helpful.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, everyone. I was looking for, there's a really great 4-4s activity. For those of you who know what 4-4s is, there's a really great 4-4s activity that demonstrates really beautifully how to get students engaging. And I thought I had it open on my computer, but it's not open. So I'll have to send that out later. I'll also share it for those of you, well, I think you all heard about this from the Matthew Mama Facebook page. If you're not in my Matthew Mama Facebook page, I would highly recommend joining, because I know I also shared this with the SCTA group. So what she's talking about is there's a couple different ways to do it. So I can create a background right here and I can choose an image. I can even do a Google image search, and I can search for, let's see. All right, I've got, oh, I'm gonna find a good one. Here we go, perfect. Insert. Any day now. Really? You're not gonna try that again. Oh, you know why? I need to change my theme. All right, so here I got some little duckies. And because I've set this as a background, the students can't move it, right? There's no way to move this around. It's stuck. And that can be really handy if you want something that's there in the background that you don't want movable. That's just about the only thing you can stick to the background. And to your question earlier, Heidi, about, or the statement you made about students being able to move stuff around, I have been known to create a slide, screenshot it, and then insert it as a background. That way I can have, like, if I'm doing a Venn diagram, I don't want the students to be able to move the circles.
Yeah.
Or, things like that, where I don't want them to be able to move them around. I would put it in the background. And then here I could insert a shape. Let's say I'm going to use a fun shape like this. How many baby ducks do I have? And bada bing, bada boom. Mama Duck has a really compelling math question for my kindergartners.
I use the backgrounds for editable worksheets. So I could take a PDF of something maybe that I'd gotten off of TPT.
Yeah.
And then use it as the background and then put text boxes on it.
Very cool. Very cool.
But I like the ducks.
Little duckies. Okay.
So, no, but just going back to what Heidi was mentioning about editable worksheets, I'm a little confused. So you don't need text boxes to have them write on a line, for example? They can just start writing?
Correct.
Oh,
So
okay.
Well, they would need to click a text box and then they could type. If I've created a table like up here, they're already typing in a text box.
Oh, so you do need something. Oh, okay. But that's kind of it's not really it.
It's essentially working as a text box. So you either need
Oh,
a text box or a table in order to,
oh, oh, I get it. Okay, thank you.
yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. Mhm.
Maybe.
Yes.
All right. Well, I have one other thing that I want to share before we go today. Isn't that amazing? We're almost up already. Isn't that just something? This is Teresa Willis's website. I don't know, or sorry, Teresa Wills. I don't know her. I just think she's phenomenal, whoever she is out there. Teresa Wills, I'm sending you all my love. So this is her website. I'll drop the link in the chat in just a moment. And she's created these slides that you can just take and use. And I'm going to show you how to do that really quickly. But as you go through here, you'll notice she has so many slides for so many different uses. A Venn diagram where they're already stuck in the background, a list where you could say, like, how are you feeling today? And you could put all the things, I don't know, you could use this for so many, you could use this as a number line. Those could be the decades, right? The 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, or the thousands, 2000s, 3000s, and so on. It just goes on and on and on. It goes all the way into geometry. Look at this. She's got multiplication using partial products. Really incredible. I'm looking at the big picture. How are you feeling today? Which would you rather? How awesome is that? That goes back to kind of that John Stevens quarters question from last week. Would you rather have, what was it, $225 or quarters as tall as you are? Come on. And then it gets into activity templates and then math routines and games. Can you tell why I love this lady? Look at this. So many different math activities. So this is which one doesn't belong. You can put in 4 images and then students vote by putting the little red circle on it to say it doesn't belong. Patterning with base 10 blocks, area and perimeter. It's a game that they can play. When you're talking about area, especially in 2nd and 3rd grade, they can make their arrays using this little grid right here. These are all Google Slides.
Wow.
I know. It goes on and on and on. This woman's amazing. So let's say you wanted to use one of these. You would just simply click on it. It's going to open it in a new tab on your computer. She has instructions what to do. So if you forget from this call, not to worry, she has instructions on the 2nd slide. But what I will tell you right now is you just click on the one that you want to use. You go through and you find the one that you want. Click on the slide over here and you can right click and copy. You can also do Control or Command C on your keyboard. And then you're going to go over to the slide deck that you're using. Click where you want to put it. If you want to put it in between these 2 slides, just click until you get the little yellow line. And you can right click paste or Control or Command V on your keyboard. Now it will pop up and it'll say, do you want to match the styles in this current presentation? Do you want to keep the original styles? And do you want to link and keep the original styles? So this is what I was talking about. When you copy and paste a slide, you can link it. So if the original slide gets changed, your slide will get changed too. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. It's just good to know purpose and intent, right? All right. So let me share her website with you and I will just stick around to answer questions. Linda, I agree. Distributing rows is always, like, when I learned that, I was like, what? You mean I don't have to do that manually? Oh my goodness.
And how many years have I used a computer to make boxes? And just find that out today, 2020.
Right? I was today years old when I learned that. All right. Any other questions before I go? I think I got to everyone's, what you were looking to learn today. Did I miss anyone's? Let's see, I'm just gonna go back really quick. Embedding a YouTube video, hopefully you got that. Knowing how it's different from Microsoft. Putting slides into a stack. Jan, did that make sense? So
Yeah, thank you.
the stack, like how you can insert or
Mhm.
move them around.
Thank you.
And then Jennifer, I just want to say, as far as making slides interactive for students, we could legitimately spend 6 hours together on engagement strategies using Google Slides alone. So please know that that's just an ongoing conversation. For those of you who haven't heard me preach about Twitter, Math Ed Twitter is on fire. So for those of you who are really wanting to dig into tech or to ed, professional learning this summer, sign up for Twitter, find me, I'm just Nova Cats, and follow all the people I follow. That's what I recommend to folks when you sign up for the first time. Make your username something really easy to remember that's not hard to spell, so that when you become really big one day, you've got a really easy Twitter handle. And I knew you guys would like that. And then because I mean, my Twitter at any given moment, I can sign into my Twitter for 3 minutes and I will learn something new. It's sensory input overload every single time, and I love it. And that's where I learned about Teresa Wills, and I also just learned about a new website this morning called buymeacoffee.com. I haven't even dug into it yet, but I'll share it with you. Yes, you can open a PowerPoint presentation in slides. It will sometimes just kind of like move the stuff around a little bit, format it, but it does do a really good, I mean, if you've got basic stuff on your slide, it'll bring it, import it, no problem. So all those old PowerPoint presentations you have that are static, you can bring them into slides, and then you can start making them collaborative and more fun and engaging. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining today's Tech-versation. I will be sending out a replay link with some additional links. I'll make sure I include the Buy Me a Coffee and the Teresa Wills. And if I think of any others this evening, I'll add them in there as well. Maybe I'll even include instructions on how to join Twitter and join me in the Twitterverse. For those of you that are ready for that step. And if you're not, it's cool too. And if you have requests for future Tech-versations, I have ideas for next week. I am also beginning a couple of other pieces of work next week. So next week it's a little more dicey for me. So I'm just trying to figure out what works for me for next week, just so you know. Jennifer, did you have a question?
I was just going to say, if you could add the Google Classroom link that you did last week, because I couldn't attend, if that's possible.
Will you actually email me and ask me for that separately?
Yes.
That'd be lovely. Thank you so much. Yep. Thank you. All right, you guys. Anything else?
Thank you, Nova.
Thank
It was
you.
great.
Thanks, Nova.
Really great.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Nova.